What do you make of the deal, first of all, for the Rangers?
Okay, so I want to hear your take first, because I've seen and read a lot on social media, and I think my view is different than everyone else.
Okay. I look at this trade and I think this becomes a big win for the Rangers if they find a way to re-sign Tarasenko. Now, I looked at their cap situation. That's the problem. They don't have a ton of expiring contracts this summer.
And you also look at their playbook from last year. They traded for a whole slew of guys at the deadline and didn't re-sign any of them. Vetrano, Kopp, Mott, Justin Braun. They went through 4 guys that they traded for last year and had no problem letting them walk.
Yeah. The difference, if you look historically, and I've talked to a lot of Russian players, a lot of them love playing in New York because of the Russian culture. And there's lots of food and there's lots of stuff that they relate to. And so I think that's
who doesn't like playing in the Garden, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's true too. So I think, you know what, if it's just a pure rental and now they did have 2 firsts, so there's a team you can argue and say, hey, we recouped one of our first rounders. So basically you'd be saying that it was Lundqvist in essence for Tarasenko and Blais. So I don't mind the trade for them, and I don't really mind it for St. Louis. This is one where I think I can see positives on both sides.
I think this is a clear win for the St. Louis Blues.
Okay.
Like crystal clear. And look, if Vladimir Tarasenko goes on a tear in the playoffs and helps the Rangers get over the hump and all of a sudden they're playing for the Stanley Cup, then I will promptly reevaluate and allow for that caveat. First off, I don't think this changes the Rangers' fortunes in a meaningful way. Yes, they've got an incredible lineup that they can put together now, and particularly if you put Tarasenko opposite of Panarin and you've got Zibanejad in the middle, just on a pure archetype basis. Remember we talked about archetypes in the beginning of the year and building out your roster that way. If you can go elite distributor in Panarin and then a power forward in Zibanejad who can help get you pucks and a pure shooter in Tarasenko, I understand the appeal of it for certain. I think the Rangers' biggest problem, though, and maybe they address this between now and the next 3 weeks, is they don't have a matchup line. They go skill, kid line. And I think that's incredibly difficult to win in the playoffs without that. They don't have someone that can wear your opponent down. And yeah, they may have the puck a lot, but none of those skill lines are good defensively. And that's a huge problem for them. And it has been for the last couple years. So that is a significant hurdle that they haven't yet cleared. And I don't put them ahead of Carolina or Boston or Toronto. Probably not the Lightning either. So that's a significant asset spend. I know you have the extra first round pick, but if you really boil down the deal, it is Tarasenko for a first, Sammy Blais, and Hunter Skinner, and the Blues retain 50%. And that 4th round pick that becomes a third if the Rangers make the playoffs essentially is the part for Nico Mikkola, who I've done a deep dive on his game, and I think he's a 6, 7, 8 type defenseman.
Yeah, he's the third pairing guy. Just gives him depth. I think they just feel he was
and if he's just
on Hayek.
Yeah, and if he's a fit to play with Braden Schneider and gives him a steady partner, then that's a win. Yeah. But still an expensive price to pay, I think, for Mikkola. From a Blues perspective, and I've gone through this. Yesterday was the day we were supposed to have Vladimir Tarasenko Day on dailyfaceoff.com. And I went through all the comps of players of his same skill set and style that have been traded, especially with that type of cap hit in recent years. I know that he had a phenomenal year last year. This year, he hasn't been nearly the same player. And it's not all based on the hand injury, because that's only somewhat recent. Before then, he really kind of had waned a lot in and out of games, and his attention to detail was really quite low. Maybe going to New York gives him a shot in the arm, but trade comp wise, I think the Blues were probably realistically looking at something like the Taylor Hall return, which was a second plus. And the fact that they got into the first round and got Sammy Blais back as a salary dump. Hunter Skinner is an ECHL player, so probably not much. I think they did well. I think they did really well. And I just have seen it all totally going the other way from a Ranger. Everyone's like, Chris Drury, massive W. And maybe that's the case. I just think St. Louis got out ahead of the market and was really smart.
Yeah, I definitely don't view it as a major win. I see potential. To me, if Tarasenko resigns, that makes the deal a lot better, right? And then that's obviously the caveat that none of us know. If he walks, then it's a pretty big
So
giveaway in a
those two
sense.
things are going against each other, though, if you think about it, because you've got Tarasenko, who, if he has a massive playoff run for you or a massive end of the season, he's pricing himself out of your team.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to be. See, the thing about re-signing there, Frank, is let's say Tarasenko's okay. He's not great. He helps out. He chips in. He does well. And I don't think Tarasenko, because this is a guy who's been on the market for a while, Frank. Do you think there's a significant market for him in free agency?
It depends on the number. He's
Yeah,
not
like
he's not a $7 million player right now.
that's what I'd agree with you, right? So I think,
But listen to what you just said. If he's just okay, why would the Rangers re-sign him?
well, because I think you look at the NHL from year to year, man. Guys were going up and down. We're seeing guys having unreal years. I think the biggest mistake GMs are doing now is a guy comes into free agency, has one good year. Well, now we're going to pay him off that one good year, right? Tarasenko had a down year. To me, you want to look at 3-4 years. That's the average. And if Tarasenko, like, New York's a great place to play. Lots of players love playing there, as you've mentioned, that he might take a little bit. The guy's made tons of money. So I don't know Tarasenko from a hole in the wall, right? I've talked to him, like, in interviews. That's it. So I don't pretend to know him. But at his stage, does he value saying, yeah, I can make a little bit more money in some other place, but I get to live in New York, where not only is the team going to be competitive, I'm going to love my lifestyle. So I wonder how much that factors in.
Probably some of it. He also has a young family, and he's already banked by the end of the season $62.5 million.
Yeah, I would hope he's doing all right.
So I'm sure he's fine. Yeah. I don't know. I think this was really shrewd business by St. Louis.